Good morning, friends. This is Duncan up in Vermont at Free as an Eagle. Just want to say hi and check in. We've been keeping very busy the last few weeks and actually getting down to some of the fun stuff with this little A-frame. So thought I'd say hi. And it's been beautifully snowy up here. Actually, it snowed about 8 or 9 inches over the last couple of days. So we've got a nice little buildup of snow here. It hasn't come off the roof yet. It builds up and slides right off quite easily, but last night wasn't too windy, so anyway, it's beautiful up here today. We've been getting a lot done, and this is when Vermont really shines, when you get a little bit of snow. So here we are, and I'll give you a quick tour of what we've been doing inside. The outside is pretty happy for the winter. The only thing I did outside recently is I installed some little security cameras, which are actually really cool. They're very small. And I'd never owned or used any of these doorbell cameras or any of this stuff, but it's actually quite amazing. I can be anywhere and just tune this in my phone and pull up the app, and I can see what's showing outside every direction of the house, and it's quite amusing. I've been waiting to see some wildlife. That hasn't happened yet, but every time I come or go, or the plow person comes or goes, they show up in the cameras, so it's really kind of cool. So yeah, we'll take a walk in. Still a little messy in here, it always is when you're making progress with things. So I don't know where we were last time I videoed, but we've done a lot. And yeah, we'll just take a walk around. So my brother was helping us out with roughing and plumbing for this downstairs bathroom, and he actually got quite a bit done. We actually have a toilet that can be used with a bucket as needed. We don't have the supply water in yet, but I was able to wire the septic system in. That was a little bit daunting, but got that done. I got a tub waiting to go in, and I got one I'm going to order for the upstairs, but that's coming. I got some sheetrock waiting to go up so we can close that bathroom in. And then I got really lucky. I was searching for some doors, and these sort of popped up almost accidentally, but they were so pretty and nice and rustic in their arch tops, like the front door is. So I ordered all the doors. I've got these two are here. The others are supposed to show up Friday, and we've been getting a lot of snow, so they're in transit, but they're not here. Been using a little wood stove a lot, although I just got here a little while ago and I haven't even had time to light it up, but the place is starting to hold heat pretty nicely. So yeah, we are making good progress, getting down to some of the enjoyable stuff here. Today's actually going to be a nice day. The sun's rising slowly. We'll take a walk up. One thing I did whilst I'm thinking of it. So the staircase, you wanted to have it exposed and kind of floating a little bit, but it had a little bounce to it I didn't like. So Carter and I actually built this triple beam here, and the edges on either side are beveled off of the ones we added on, but we wanted to stiffen it up, and then there will be railings obviously that will continue to stiffen it up, so that will be nice. And then when we've done all the rest of that, one of these days we'll take the paper off these and poly them, but right now there's a lot of traffic up and down these stairs. Oh yeah, the other thing we've been doing a lot of is wiring, and that's allowing us to put more insulation in, but yeah, so I've added in some wiring downstairs. I'm a little winded. I did a lot of snow blowing and shoveling this morning. So yeah, so we've been hard at work here running all this wiring in, so I'm learning to become a bit of an electrician. It can be a little tricky actually, especially when you have a supply, like a feed line going in, and you got outlets going out in both directions. You're dealing with a lot of stiff wire. You gotta tie into these outlets and run little jumpers and stuff it all into the box and not have anything fail. So yesterday I ran all these and then tested them all, and fortunately they all worked. So one of my favorite little features here that I really was looking forward to doing, decided to do it so I could use it whilst we're here, and it's not in the way of anything else, is this little loft up here. So zoom it back out a little bit. So this is a little bitty loft, but there's enough room to put a camp chair in there or two and sit up in there and look out. And I'm kind of looking forward to coming up on a starry dark night some night, just sitting out there, and that's a north facing window. So, and I got this really pretty little bird light. I happened to be looking for lighting, and I found this little raven, and he has a little bulb on a wire hanging off of his mouth there. But that's a pretty nice little feature. I thought that was cute. And we ran the pine in here to give it the rustic look. So that's kind of nice. And that won't interfere with anything else. We kind of starting to work from the top down in a sense. So this little mini loft, or rather mini dormer, I've got to do a little bit of framing to kind of fill in along here so we can run, I think I'm going to run pine in the ceiling of this. Maybe the whole thing, it's pretty small. I've used up most of the pine that we were getting cheaply. And then this bigger dormer has a bigger ceiling, and I actually bought a beautiful chandelier, a very rustic, cool chandelier for the entry porch, but then it turned out it was too big. It's about 3 feet in diameter and about 3 feet that you got to hang it down from the ceiling from. It was way too big, but it occurred to me it would be perfect up in here, so we're just going to sheetrock this dormer to kind of allow the chandelier to stand out, and that will look pretty. So yeah, this project is actually, it's beautiful. I'm very pleased with the way it's coming out, but it's a lot of work trying to do all these different elements, you know, get the wiring roughed in, and then later the next couple of weeks, it's actually going to be really cold. So we're going to add the outer layer of insulation. I got to run a wire up into the ceiling here for that chandelier, and then we'll be able to finish insulating this and then sheetrock it. So this will be happening kind of simultaneously with everything else, or doing multiple things all the time to keep myself and my son busy, and any other helpers that want to jump in on occasion. So yeah, we're doing good, and we'll be able to get this all insulated. The stove will heat it all when the weather's not too cold, and the more insulation we add, then the better it will hold the heat. So it's working out pretty good, considering it hasn't been brutally cold most of this winter. Some of it has, but the stove keeps up with it if it's kept going. I've been bringing up wood, burning through it, but bringing up wood. Oh yeah, and I got a little handle I made to make it easier to get onto that loft that's going to tie into one side. What else are we doing? Yeah, you can see some wiring still going on. And polyurethaning these doors. I'm getting 3 coats of semi-gloss poly on these little babies. So when you're doing doors, you got to be kind of careful. These are beautifully made. I think they're made out of yellow pine. They came from Brazil, of all things, but they weren't horribly expensive, and they're coming out nice. So 3 coats of poly ought to dress these right up. And I ordered some wrought iron hardware for them, which is reminiscent of my grandfather's cottage back when I was a kid. I think that's why I fell in love with rustic. He had a beautiful little summer house on Lake Winnipesaukee back in the days when you could afford to be up there. And it had all wrought iron hardware, which I really like. So that's kind of our theme. We're going to be putting a lot of wrought iron things in there, kind of like the front door handle has that. This door over here is the temporary. That was the outside before the porch went on, so that's going to get replaced. Other than that, okay, there's a bunch of insulation there waiting to go up. That's all the craft faced R19, and when that's put on there, that'll be final in terms of insulation. I actually ran R19 unfaced up in these rafter bays, and initially to leave them open enough to run wiring, and then put the final layer on the outside over the wiring rather than have to cut through it all. Put some R30 in places that didn't look like they need insulation, so trying to be smart about it without wasting too much money. But I wanted to get some insulation up fast to hold heat during the winter, so far so good. It's not doing too badly. So anyway, that's a catch up to where we're at right now, what we're working on. I think today we're going to get the poly on these doors, and then we got to finish framing the bathroom. It's going to need a little knee wall back there. The tub's going to go across and bump into that knee wall, and we'll be doing some insulating. So lots to do. Hoping to get in here by June. That's the goal. So I will be in touch. Enjoy the snow. I really do want to get out skiing. I think I'm going to call Tuesday or Wednesday a ski day and take a day off from the work. But it's satisfying to see it come together. And I hope you all have a good week coming up. It'll be a little chilly next week. Anyway, have a good day. We will see you later.